You're very famous for explaining the Randle cycle, and there are a lot of people that are fan of the animal-based diet, so they're eating a lot of honey, a lot of fruits, along with
Mm.
fatty red meat or fatty
Hmm.
meat. So a
Hmm.
lot of fats and a lot of carbohydrates.
Yeah.
What happens in your body when you mix carbs and fats?
Right. Well, what happens is the carbohydrates tend to blockade the fats, and the fats tend to blockade the carbohydrates. So what you've actually got is a situation where there is plenty of energetic substrate on hand that you could use to produce energy with, but nonetheless you're unable to use either one efficiently or effectively. This leads to a whole bunch of problems
Mhm.
around glycation damage, around hepatic ATP concentration being dragged down, which is a very bad thing, around fatty liver disease, and around chronic systemic inflammation.
Even if the sugar is natural, right?
Yep, sugar is sugar and it all
Sugar is
breaks down to
sugar.
the same thing.
That's what a lot of people don't understand.
I mean,
Is
you could say this cyanide's perfectly okay to eat because it's natural cyanide. No, it's still cyanide. It'll still kill you.
so is there any difference in between fructose and glucose?
Yes, one of them is a 5-carbon ring and one of them is a 6-carbon ring. Glucose is metabolizable in many different ways in the body, and fructose is much more limited. Most of the fructose that we consume, if we do consume any, has to be handled by the liver, and the metabolic pathway by which this occurs necessarily concomitantly leads to a reduction in the hepatic ATP concentration.
So if someone was to eat some carbohydrates, would it be better to eat honey or fruits or to eat table sugar or starches?
But it's a begging the question fallacy question, really, because a person should not eat
Yeah.
carbohydrates.
If someone was to eat carbohydrates,
Then in terms of the level of damage,
yeah.
well, fructose is probably up there among the worst carbohydrates you can consume. So I would avoid fructose before I would start avoiding glucose, which means that you'd be eating pure glucose or starch, glucose starch, that is, in preference to table sugar or fruit, because both of those contain a significant amount of fructose.
Mhm.
However, let's get back to the main point, which is you should not eat any carbohydrates.
If maybe you can get them not to eat processed foods or not to eat high sugar content foods, but maybe they still want to include some potatoes or vegetables.
Okay, well, the
Say,
problem the problem with that is that when you eat a potato, it's made up of glucose starch, which will break down rapidly to glucose. If you eat the processed food that contains a lot of glucose in it inherently, it's exactly the same thing that you end up with. There is no difference.
there's no difference. Even if one is, you know, they call it complex carbohydrates compared to
Mm.
simple carbohydrates, but they all break down to glucose at the end of the day. So
The whole argument that complex carbohydrates or starch is better to consume than glucose in its already broken down form is based on a thing called the GI scale.
mhm.
You've probably all heard of the GI scale. The problem with the GI scale is that it's nonsense. It's based on pseudoscience. It's based on a very small sample size of people. And what they found, actually, if you look at the statistics that underpin this GI scale, what you'll find is that the repeatability or reliability of the measurement from one individual to another on any given food challenge is so variable as to make the average result that they produce in these tables meaningless and of no utility. Even worse than that, while you and I will get a very different response to the exact same one piece of white bread, for
Yeah,
example,
sure.
if I test you on one piece of white bread, the same brand of white bread, today, tomorrow, the next day, next week, next month, and next year, you will get a wildly different response every single time. The GI scale is laughable. It's not science. It's theology. It's another thing that has been put together by plant-based theologists who want to try and sell you that eating plants is a good idea. No, it isn't still.
So fibers is not good for you.
No. There is no evidence whatsoever anywhere in the literature that anyone can point to tell you that fiber is good for you in your diet.
Mhm.
It's
I had a
theology.
very bad experience with fibers. I was suffering from like crazy bloating for over a year, and I went to the doctors and they prescribed me all kinds of fibers and probiotics, and it only made it worse. And
Mhm.
I really solved all of those problems that I had for multiple years in just a few weeks by
Yep.
cutting out all carbohydrates.
Yep.
It was insane. Just changed my life.
Yep. Anyone out there that doubts at all whether removing all fiber from your diet is a good idea or not, try it for a week. Try it for 2 weeks.
Right. It's right.
Yeah.
But it's
You
so hard.
will, they will try and scare you. They'll tell you, oh, no, if you don't have fiber, you won't be able to move your bowels. Nonsense. That's not true. Or you'll be more likely to get bowel cancer. Absolute nonsense. There is no evidence in support of that claim extant anywhere on the planet either. That's theology as well, bought and paid for theology. Basically, all of these ideas, they'll say, oh, what about your microbiome, though? Well, there's answers to that too. Like, well, we know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the human microbiome. We don't know what a good microbiome even is.
Mhm.
And this whole idea of good and bad microbiota, oh, for goodness sake, really? It's like saying good and bad cholesterol. That doesn't exist either.